Awesome. Okay, so we are up and running. Okay, so first and foremost, welcome. My name is Travis. I'm one of the program coordinators here, uh, as well as some of the program coordinators that y'all are going to get the chance uh, of meeting here. I'm originally from Houston, Texas. Uh, Went to school at Texas A&M University Kingsville. That's a very long name once I say it all out like that. But I realize when I say that every time, a lot of people don't even know where that's at. So it's a little bit past Corpus Christi if you're familiar with Texas. I went there, got a communications and journalism degree, and I moved to Austin about 2 years ago. And I've been working here at College Forward, serving wonderful students such as yourselves. And that's enough about me because I love to talk and I'll talk all day, but I'm going to pass the mic to Megan because you are right underneath me.
Hi, I'm Megan. I am also one of the program coordinators here at College Forward. I've been here about a year. I've also been in Austin about a year. I'm originally from Chicago, and I'm so thrilled to be here.
Hey y'all. I'm Amber. I am originally from San Diego, California, and I went to school up in the north part of the state, Chico State University. I moved out to Austin right after graduation, served as an AmeriCorps member for their Access program there for a year, and then hopped on the program coordinator team about like 4 months ago. So yeah, it's been really great since, and I'm really excited to share all this information with you guys today.
Awesome. And Sarah, did you want to introduce yourself as well?
Oh, sure. Hey, everyone. I'm kind of crashing the workshop today, but my name is Sarah, and I'm a staff member at College Forward. Like Amber, I came to College Forward as an AmeriCorps member, serving students in our Success program, mainly in the San Antonio area. I stuck around College Forward for a while, so I now oversee our student app, and I'm here just helping out with the workshop tonight. So good to see y'all.
Cool. So without further ado, we will get started with this financial aid workshop. Also, if y'all have any questions throughout the workshop, Megan will be checking in on that chat. So if you can drop those questions in there, she'll be more than happy to answer those for you. All righty, let's go ahead and get started if you would, Amber. Okay, so here at College Forward, our mission as coaches is to serve underserved, motivated students to achieve benefits of higher education and a college degree. That's our mission statement. So what does that kind of look like? The way that we do that is every student has the opportunity to join the program, College Forward, upon their graduation. Once doing that, once that student graduates, they receive a dedicated, experienced mentor, such as me, Amber, or various other PCs or coaches that we have here at College Forward. And how we kind of work with the students is by individual phone calls or emails or texts or whatever medium works for that particular student that we're working with in that situation. That's how we kind of keep in contact, and we just support them during their college career with resources, advice, lots of stories, especially if you get me as a coach, you get to hear lots of my crazy stories. And I like to hear a lot of y'all's crazy stories. I'm sure that will happen in the future. And most importantly, all of these great things and all of my stories that you get to hear come at no cost, right? So you can go and repeat them. I may copyright them, but that's another discussion. But yes, this is absolutely free, right? So this is really great for first generation students, such as myself. I was first generation student in college, so it definitely helps to have somebody in your corner. Alrighty. So all about that to talk about financial aid. So I'm gonna give y'all a little bit of a timeline of the financial aid specifically toward this year. So as you all know, I'm sure your advisors have done a great job of letting y'all know when it has opened and things like that. Just in case y'all need to apply. I heard y'all been signing up for or applying to colleges already. So this is all great news. So a lot of this y'all may already know. So it may be verbatim, but I'm going to tell it to y'all anyway, and you can look on the slide as well and follow along. So October 1st, of course, this is a date that you're going to have to memorize, get it in your head, because it's going to be the same every year. It's not going to change. So it's going to be the first. All right. That's when it opens, FAFSA and TASFA. So main thing is to get in there and get it done. Right now, January 15th, that is Texas State Priority and Grant deadline. Okay, so that's important to make sure that you get everything in by those deadlines. That way, you don't have to, be scrambling last minute to try to turn something in or reach out to somebody to do something last minute. Okay, after that, students accept their financial aid. It usually comes in that spring semester or the summer, and that will be for that next upcoming academic year, right? So if you're doing your FAFSA in 2020, it will be for that next year, right, for 2021, right? And then fall 2021, this is when you would receive that financial aid that you applied for that previous year. So it takes about a year. So that's why you get started early, because as you know, there's so many people that apply for this, and there's a lot of things that they have to do on the back end to kind of regulate and make sure everybody's, pretty much just doing their fair share and turning in what they need to. So that's a lot on their end, on our end, or on your end, filling stuff out. This is what you have to do so you can make sure you're in the right standings when these dates kind of fall. All right, now y'all have heard me talk about FAFSA and TASFA, or at least bring them up at least once. Everybody, for the most part, I wouldn't say everybody. A lot of times people talk about the FAFSA, but not so much about the TASFA, right? At least that's how it was for me when I was in school or when I was in high school. But there's some differences between the two. So we're going to start off with the FAFSA. I got to make sure I say that right. FAFSA. Right? It's a very tricky word. When I was in high school, I said it wrong all the time. So if y'all say it wrong, it's okay. I know a lot of advisors and stuff, it really irks them when you say it the wrong way. So to be safe, say financial aid. Let's say financial aid. All right, so for the FAFSA, first and foremost, it's for U.S. citizens. So this is permanent U.S. citizens, non-citizens with arrival/departure card, the I-94, which would be like refugees, parolees, Cubans, Haitians, things of that nature. That's when you're filling out the FAFSA, okay? And that's the one where we'll get a little bit more into details on when you go online and things of that nature. Now, the TASFA. So basically, you'll know you'll have to do a TASFA if you don't meet the requirements for a FAFSA. That's a pretty verbatim way to kind of check and see if you need, which one you need to do. Another thing would be for our undocumented students. This does include DACA students as well. There are a couple of requirements though for the TASFA, mainly with it being Texas-based. You have to live in Texas for at least 3 years before graduating from high school or receiving your GED. Also live in Texas for 12 months to enroll in college. And my slide is not coming up. I can't read that part at the bottom. But anyway, So that is the TASFA. It's just it's a packet that you fill out. You'll get it, and then you'll mail it in, as well as some other forms, like your parents' taxes and things like that. So you'll mail that in instead of just submitting it online, which we'll talk about a little bit more into detail later on in this presentation. Do we have any questions so far? No? All right. Okay. Moving on. All right. So things you'll need to prepare for the FAFSA, right? So this is when you're already thinking about the colleges that you're going to, maybe already applied, such as some of you here today. And now you're trying to help get some money to pay for all of these college costs, right? So this is where financial aid could come in. The first step that you'll need to do is create your FSA ID, right? So you can sign electronically. This is something you just have to do. This is the very first step. This is very important as well to remember your FSA ID. I'm pretty sure we'll talk about it again and the importance of it. I'm sure your advisors will harp on how important it is as well. You just want to remember this because you're going to need it throughout your whole college career. It's going to be the same, and you're going to need it every time you sign in. So you'll have to create that, but make sure it's something that you remember when you do. You'll also need your social security number or your ITIN if you're doing your task. You also need your federal income, such as W-2s and money earned in 2019, bank statements and other records of investment, if applicable, untaxed income. You'll also need access to a device with internet because for the FAFSA will be done online. Okay. Now for the TASFA, this is a little bit different. This is a packet that you will get if you're filling out the TASFA. So you will need a pen, right? People forget about that because everything's always on the computer nowadays. So you will have to fill that out with the pen. You will need your W-2s. So you will have to get those records, and then you'll have to mail those in as well as those bank statements and investments or untaxed income, just as you would with your FAFSA. Also, you want to request your IRS tax return transcripts. That way you can have those just in case if you mail it in, you'll have it on hand. And then also, one little tidbit is if you are a male over the age of 18, you will have to register, or you need to be registered for selective service when you are filling out your TASFA. Okay. Now, what if I have not completed my taxes for 2019? Now, it's very, very important because I always seem to have some student that asks me this exact question every year around this time. So you must file your taxes in order to be eligible for federal state financial aid. So that pretty much answers it in a nutshell right there. There are people that you can contact if you have any questions or you're trying to work out something around it or something like that. If you're having that issue, this information is here. Their foundations committee, we have their email and their phone number. They can help a lot better than we can in that circumstance. Okay, so what if my financial situation has changed since filing my taxes in 2019? Now, this also happens a lot because, life goes on, people change jobs and things of that nature. So when this does happen, pretty much you just want to, just be proactive. If you know that your taxes are different, instead of waiting to kind of cross your fingers and hope that you don't get verified or something like that, just go ahead and reach out to that, contact that school or that financial aid office directly and let them know That way they're not, finding out late, and then you have to do all of this other extra stuff to kind of figure out your circumstances. So if you're in that situation, just reach out to those schools or that financial aid office and kind of talk to them directly about it. Ooh, I keep forgetting that you're changing the slides, Amber. I'm like hitting next over here for no reason. It's fine. Okay. So some clarifications on financial aid. Neither the task force or the FAFSA report to the ICE or the DHS, and student aid is not subject to the public charge rule. Let me turn to the public charge rule. And also, aid is available based on student status, right? So that means each student is different. We'll talk about that a little bit more once we get into this, when we take a deeper dive into the whole filling out form. But yeah, it's different for everybody. You'll find that out once you fill it out and you get your report back. But also students who are not U.S. students but are eligible Texas residents file the TASFA. And we talked about that earlier. I'm just reiterating it again, just so y'all know that you can still receive aid. It will be in a different form. Most of the time it's grants, as where when you receive FAFSA, you can get grants and loans. All right. Some more clarifications would be if you are under 24, unmarried, and have if you're under 24, unmarried, and basically depend on your parents, then you are a dependent. The only way that you would form as an independent is if you are over 24, basically, and you are married. So those are the two things you'll find out when you're doing your financial aid. It's very important that you know these things. It's always a question: am I independent or am I dependent? A quick way to answer that is, who do you live with when you go back home? Do you go back to your parents' house? That would make you a dependent most of the time. But also, when you have these conversations, you can reach out to your advisors. You can reach out to your coaches. If you're in that phase and you're off in college, you can do that as well. But more than likely, if you're under 24 and you're unmarried, you're probably going to be a dependent. All right, now we're back to creating that ID, right? The FSA ID. Now, we talked about this a little bit earlier, so I'm not going to spend too much time on it right now. But the important thing is that both, your parent and you have to create this, right? It's something both parties have to do. Now, if your parent doesn't have a social security number, they don't have to create the FSA ID. Instead, they're going to go and create a signature page when filling out the FAFSA. But like I said, when you're creating this ID, make sure you remember your password. Make sure it's something you know. Okay. Now, so to create this, you want to go to FSA ID or financial aid ID .ed.gov. Sorry about that. And when you scroll down, you're going to go to create an ID. Now, this is just like when you're creating an ID and password or user ID and password for anything. They have their stipulations on what has to be included in there. The main thing that you don't want to include, and this is just like with anything else, you don't want to put your information out there. So don't put your name, date, birth, or etc. You don't want them to have all of that information, but make sure it's something that you will remember. Okay, so you're going to enter your name, date of birth, social security number, contact information, and then a challenge question with the answer, right? So make sure it's something that you're going to remember the answer to. Funny story, I like to tell stories if you haven't caught on by now, but usually what I do is my thing, when I create a question, I always choose the your first pet. And I always forget, the name is Beamer. My first pet's name was Beamer, but I spelled it with an uppercase B instead of a lowercase b. And that always messed me up when I was trying to sign in. So point of the story is just remember your password, because it will, even if it's just a mishap like that, it'll mess it up. Cool. All right, so once you do that, you want to make sure all your information is correct and then accept the terms and conditions. After you do that, you'll be emailed a security code to your email address or to your phone. You just verify that account, and then the information will be entered above. Okay, so once you verify and do all, not verify, but once you verify that account and you get that report, it will look something like this. It's called a student aid report, or SAR. If you ever hear your counselor or advisor or another coach say SAR, it just means student aid report. It'll look something like this, along these lines. And there's some important things that are on this, right? It'll let you know if you've been selected for verification. It'll also let you know, your family contribution and things like that. So that's called the EFC, and that kind of just determines how much money you're gonna receive, or what parameters you're in for receiving money. So that's what the EFC is for. That's why it's a little bit different for each student, each situation, because each student has a different circumstance back at home and their amount of financial income, right? Cool. So that was a FAFSA. Now, after you submit the TASFA, what you want to do is you want to contact each university 2 weeks after sending your TASFA to confirm it has been received and that no additional details are needed. It's very important, especially once you get to the college level, that you're kind of proactive with things, because you want to check on things. Because at that point, a lot of times the school's not going to call you to tell you they need something. You just got to check on your own, right? So especially if you're doing a TASFA, you got to check up on that process, because you got to look at it as this is your money to help you with school. So if you want the money, you got to do the work and you got to do the paperwork. That's really what this is about. It's about doing the paperwork, making sure you have everything turned in right, and doing all of that. Financial aid information for TASFA students will be sent out in the spring as well, with financial aid packages from the schools. So with all of that, that's a FAFSA and a TASFA. Like I said, they'll both be sent out at the same time, as far as whether you receive those funds or not, or your SAR, or you calling the schools if you did the TASFA to find out if they received it or if they need anything else. The main point of this is knowing what to do and how to check up on it to make sure you're okay. All right. That's the main thing with the FAFSA and TASFA. I feel like once you've done it once or twice, you kind of get into a routine of it, because it's almost going to be the same thing every year. You just got to remember these dates that we talked about earlier, and just make sure you're doing the right things, and you're turning in the right paperwork, and you're doing the correct one, whether that be the FAFSA or the TASFA. But other than that, that was most of the presentation that we had. Amber, Sarah, or Megan, feel free to jump in if I left something out. If not, we're going to enter our Q&A portion.
Travis, just make sure to